walk into a massive sports bar and, you are instantly hit with a wall of sensory overload.
Oh, absolutely.
You've got like 100 screens playing 50 different games, perfectly synchronized audio pumping through the ceiling, but what you don't see is the sprawling nervous system hidden inside the walls making that happen.
Right, the invisible infrastructure.
Exactly. So today for our deep dive, we are unpacking a product spec page from HDTV Supply. It's for a spool of wire, specifically the Kramer BC-2S-300M speaker bulk cable. And our mission today is to figure out why the incredibly specific engineering of, well, seemingly mundane AV wiring is the absolute make-or-break foundation for huge commercial systems.
Yeah, I mean, it is really easy to look at a spool of copper and assume that it's just a passive piece of metal.
Right.
But when you are running infrastructure at an industrial scale, the physical tolerances of that cable, they dictate whether $1 million AD system sounds crystal clear or just completely falls apart.
So let's look at the sheer scale of this specific Kramer spool, because we
Yeah.
aren't talking about a few feet of wire for a home theater.
No, definitely not.
This is a 300-meter reel that is 985 feet of continuous 16 American wire gauge stranded bare copper.
Which is massive.
It is, and it features a 26/30 high strand count, which, if you think about it, is kind of like comparing a thick bundle of fine angel hair pasta to one stiff, solid noodle.
That is actually a really great analogy.
Yeah.
Because you need that flexibility. When you are pulling nearly 1,000 feet of wire through the walls of a commercial building, navigating tight conduit bends, that flexibility prevents the wire from snapping.
Oh, wow. Yeah, I didn't even think about the wire actually breaking.
Yeah, it happens all the time with cheaper stuff.
Yeah.
But the specs highlight something far more critical for signal integrity, which is low capacitance.
Right, so let's dig into the physics there. Why does capacitance matter so much over a 1,000-foot run?
Well, anytime you have two parallel conductors running side by side, separated by an insulator, you are essentially building a giant electronic component known as a capacitor.
Okay, got it.
Over a 10-foot run in your living room, that capacitance is, negligible. But you scale that up to 300 meters winding through the ceilings of a commercial venue, and the cable itself actually starts storing an electrical charge.
Which acts just like a low-pass filter, right? Like it literally bleeds off the high-frequency audio signals.
Exactly. If you use a poorly shielded high-capacitance wire for a run that long, the crisp treble of a sports announcer's voice just gets absorbed by the cable itself.
Wow.
And the audio coming out of the speaker sounds like a muffled, muddy mess.
So how does the Kramer cable get around that issue?
Well, they use a very specific white PVC insulation and a precise twisting geometry. That keeps those conductors interacting optimally and minimizes that filtering effect. Plus, they add practical site features like color-coded red and black jackets.
And the sequential meter markings, right?
Yes.
Printed directly on the outer sheath. Which is huge because when an installer is pulling cable through a dark crawl space, those markings tell them exactly how much wire is left on the massive spool without having to guess.
It's a lifesaver on a job site, honestly.
I bet. But, pulling 1,000 feet of perfectly engineered cable doesn't mean much if the hardware pushing the signal is an afterthought.
Right. The whole ecosystem has to match.
Exactly. And the massive scale of this spool perfectly mirrors the massive systems handled by the vendor selling it. HDTV Supply is a 25-year global vendor, and they specialize in really intense setups, things like Wolfpack HDMI matrix switchers.
Oh, yeah. A matrix switcher is basically the brain of these massive venues. It allows a sports bar to take, say, 40 different satellite receivers and instantly route any single game to any combination of up to 160 different televisions.
And without a drop in resolution or audio sync, which is just wild.
It really is.
But here's where I want to push back a little on the logistics. The cable itself costs $432, which is actually down from $540. If I'm a professional AV integrator, I already know the specs I need. I know my matrix switcher requires 16-gauge low-capacitance copper. So why buy this specific cable from a niche AV supplier like HDTV Supply? Why not just grab bulk wire from a local generic hardware store?
Because, well, you aren't just buying copper. You are paying for a specialized ecosystem of oversight.
What do you mean by oversight?
So if you look at the vendor's track record, they cite a specific 5-star review highlighting an employee named Rachel. The integrator had actually ordered the wrong equipment for their specific setup.
Oh, yikes.
Yeah. But Rachel caught the compatibility error on her end, flagged it, and fix the order before it ever left the warehouse.
Hey, really, she effectively audited their system design just from an order form.
Exactly. A generic buck wire supplier just puts whatever you click into a cardboard box and ships it.
Yeah, they definitely aren't checking your math.
Right. And in massive multi-screen installations, a single mismatched impedance rating or an incorrect cable type can cause these cascading debugging nightmares across the entire matrix.
Which would cost a fortune in labor to fix.
Exactly. You source from a specialized vendor because you are paying for that second set of expert eyes to ensure your foundation doesn't fail under load.
So premium AV infrastructure relies just as heavily on the quality of those physical connections and the vendor's expertise as it does on the flashy screens and speakers themselves.
100%. The physical wire is the ultimate bottleneck. If the foundation is flawed, the entire system collapses.
Which brings us right back to that hidden nervous system inside the walls. If a seemingly simple spool of copper cable requires this much specific engineering and specialized vendor support just to flawlessly play the audio for a football game, how much invisible, highly specialized infrastructure is quietly running the rest of the technology you interact with every single day?